I apologize for any background noise in this video. I really wanted to get this done. Vomitoreum is one of the best indie games I have ever touched. Before you proceed any further with this video, I advise you to go and buy and play this game. It's a Metroidvania on PC that uses the Doom engine, meaning it can run on pretty much anything. If you like Metroidvanias, buy and play the game. It's only $10. And if you have no clue what a Metroidvania is, let me spell it out for you. Find the lock, then find the key for said lock, and then open up several locked doors with the one key. To find more locked doors, well, you'll need a different key that will make you more powerful, yada yada. They're fun games, and so is this one. But like I said, if you do not care about spoilers, or don't really care about Metroidvanias, you should still watch the video, and allow me to share my love for this game with you, the viewer. Vomitoreum is breathtaking. This game, I don't know where to begin. There's so much to start talking about, and I don't know how I can bridge it organically, but I'm going to try anyways. Vomitoreum is one of those games that is a perfect blend of unique graphical style, intense action-packed gameplay, meaningful progression, and a steady rise and challenge. Not only that, but it boasts a fascinating narrative which tells the tale of a sacred warrior rising from the diseased land to battle the plague which turned the world into rot. This game, and everything that follows it, screams unique and fascinating. The world which exists inside the game is bleak and filled with dread. A sense of hopelessness hangs low over you throughout your journey. Every moment in this game feels like a fight, not just for survival, but a fight for your own personal sanity. I say that in a positive light. This game is an experience, and it will haunt you afterwards. It'll get under your skin and burrow deep within your soul. This is art right here, ladies and gentlemen. This is an experience that will grip you from start to finish and will not let go until the credits are rolling. And even by then, this game will leave a lasting impression on you. No doubt in my mind that it will. Everything from the game's art direction combined with its top-notch gameplay and progression brews this incredible experience, and I have yet to find anything which matches it outside of a few legendary titles. So without further ado, let's get into talking about the gameplay and mechanics before we get into level design, and then I'll finish it off with the atmosphere, art style, and story presentation. Alright, let's go. Gameplay in Vomitoreum is solid, shooting feels responsive and crunchy, and the movement is bouncy and joyfully fast. Nearly everything in this game is satisfying to kill. Not only that, but the enemy designs themselves are some of the most disturbing things I have ever seen, but we'll go more into that when I talk about the art style. Art style aside though, these enemies do pack a wallop, and they seriously don't pull any punches when damaging you. This fair bit of challenge is pretty consistent throughout the game, but it can get a bit too easy towards the end, especially when you get further and collect more and more items. The challenge just seems to dissipate. The option for a difficulty scale factor was questionably removed due to the time it would take to balance multiple difficulties. First of all, it probably wouldn't have taken that long for the level designers to add this in. It probably would have taken an extra month of development. The game should have had the option for normal difficulty and a legendary difficulty, like Nightmare for Doom, where the enemies respawn after a set amount of time while doing twice the damage they did on the previous difficulty. However, I don't think the player should be arbitrarily punished like if they have the items like in Metroid Zero Mission's hard mode. Nah, the difficulty should be balanced around the enemies like Doom was. The game was made on the Doom engine. I should expect it to have all the things Doom has. However, most of the challenge comes from navigating the game's world, but that's an entirely different can of worms here. We'll talk more about that in a little bit, but let me get another thing out of the way when it comes to the difficulty. Enemies do not respawn, ever, which means when you reach a certain point in the campaign, there will be no enemies left for you to shoot, making retraversing these explored spaces a chore. Initially, it was creepy because I was afraid something would pop out of the shadows to surprise me, but I was unfortunately disappointed to see that there's none of that here. Also, the shooting in this game feels relatively flat and kind of boring because the combat is nothing more complicated than jumping precise shots in a singular dash maneuver that isn't very versatile since you can only move in one direction, forward. Honestly, with all the super immersive Doom mods to take inspiration from when it comes to movement mechanics, this feels like a wasted opportunity, especially when Metroid Dreadnought exists. However, don't think I'm diminishing the upgrades you do get in this game. What I'm trying to say is they just don't feel like anything more than the basic Metroidvania upgrades. While this remains true, I still enjoyed the process of finding the upgrades and having those little aha moments. Collecting the items in this game was such a rewarding process, turning from a weak piece of shit in the beginning of the game with a pea shooter pistol to practically flying super soldier who triple jumps by using the knockback of his double-barreled shotgun to extend his jumps, or freezing platforms on water with the secondary fire from the machine gun to run across without ever having to swim. These moments give the game some charm, and it plays on some mechanics I've seen previously in Metroidvania games. Vomitoreum is excellent at delivering this kind of experience, which gives the game some charm all in its own, not to mention the stellar art direction and creative story. It's even got some damn good boss battles too, while they don't boil down to much more than circle strafing around them until they're dead, but there's still a great variety here, and there's more than there were in Doom, and they do offer a fair bit of challenge compared to the rest of the game's enemies. These things put up a real fight, and they do massive amounts of damage, forcing you to keep yourself on your toes throughout the endeavor. However, sometimes they can drag on just a bit too long, and it can be quite a bit tedious, but they could be worse. But now, we're transitioning into our next topic of discussion, the level design. The only weak point of this game for me is the way the world is structured. Not the areas themselves, but the way they're all connected together is just, how do I put it, kind of tedious. Yeah, there are a few shortcuts to get you around the map, but a lot of the time they're just one-way streets, and that gets annoying. Or sometimes where the game just asks you to swim, and the swimming speed in this game should have been tweaked to be a tad bit faster because this shit is fucking boring. As for the secrets and goodies and stuff, there are quite a few, but none of them are very challenging to find. Yet another curse of the Doom engine. And speaking of the Doom engine, yeah, that means no real vertical level design, meaning that everything has to be incredibly spread out and irritating to traverse. The creator rarely uses any 3D geometry in the game, which unfortunately takes some of the fun out of the Metroidvania level design. You might be telling me he couldn't have done that because it was made in the Doom engine. To that I say bullshit. It is absolutely possible to have 3D geometry in the Doom engine as long as you limit it to platforms and bridges and you're not really using it to make entire castles or dungeons or whatever. But it is entirely possible to do this stuff in GZDooms. I honestly think this guy should have used the Quake engine instead of the Doom engine, and then used the Half-Life trick where loading in new areas is as simple as walking through a trigger. But even if I don't really care for the way the world is put together in this spread out manner, I will say it is not bad by any means. These areas are all unique and have secrets and goodies to discover and plenty of enemies to kill. The criticisms I've been given only apply to the endgame. Vomitoreum structure is very well put together, and I never once got lost until the very end. These areas, while their names being sorta complex and hard to follow, I really like this mechanical steampunk looking area where you fight this tough as nails boss who can two-shot you with a big bow. What about these robots who activate nearby and kill you with nearly 2 hits as well? Areas in this game vary from caves to cliffs to cities to ruins to airships to castles. It's all here, and they all boast a unique design that will be sure to set you on edge, followed by a score which is unmatched in my eyes. The droning sounds of cacophony and the screams and distorted synths echo in your eardrums and make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. There's a lot to love about the game's level design and pacing, offering just the right amount of challenge for every possible route accessible to you. Despite the minor flaw of it being tedious to traverse after the enemies have been killed, this game is still a very, very impressive work of art, and game design under a lot of strict limitations. This is still very impressive for the Doom engine. Every area is meticulously designed, and every nook and cranny is detailed and made with love and care. Well, maybe not every single nook and cranny, but a good chunk of them are packed with intricate little details. Okay, I am overhyping the game's detail just a little bit, but the setting is so imaginative that I can't help but imagine these environments to be 10 times more detailed than they really are. This game is just so thought-provoking for me on so many levels, and not just on a gameplay and level design standpoint. No, that's not what makes this game feel special. It's the art design and the world at play here. The best words I can use to describe this game's aesthetic are a haunting pixel painting that came to life. You've no doubt noticed how strange and alien this game looks on a visual level. You might be asking why everything looks this way, and that dives into spoilers. And trust me, you do not want this game spoiled for you. But it's not a spoiler to admire the superb art direction at play here. Never has an environment in a game felt so alive to me, as though it were a living organism twisting and churning me about its organs. Oof. Oh my god, the atmosphere that follows you out throughout these various disturbing set pieces is phenomenal. You'll see rivers of bodies falling from an open mouth on the side of a cliff. You'll see a boss with a mouth over its stomach and pixelated titties. You'll see weird, trunk-like aliens that lumber towards you menacingly and deal heaps of damage. The weapons you use all look impressive and have detailed sprite work that also maintain consistency with the tone of the game. A lot of this art reminds me of this Keter class SCP entity 610, where a skin infection would cause men's bodies to distort and turn into nefarious beings that would seek to infect other humans to further spread SCP-610. The art in this game was inspired by one Polish artist Zdzisław Beksinski. Anyways, this artist is known for his disturbing artworks that, as far as he's concerned, have no meaning behind them other than he felt like painting it. This art is so surreal, visceral, and it carries this atmosphere of dread across each and every painting. This nightmarish art style beautifully carries over into Vomitoreum, some other influences as well, like Lovecraft and Geiger. Like I said, the music in this game matches the art direction, and it's quite disturbing. Most of it is just full of weird, cacophonous drones and distorted noises that are sure to put you on edge. There's some music in this game, however, that just goes fucking ham. It's very reminiscent of a Andrew Hulshult soundtrack. It's got some atmosphere, as well as fast and intense bouts of music where the distorted guitars and heavy percussion kick in with the occasional vocal or synth work. It's genuinely great stuff, but my issue with it is that the environmental tracks are nothing more than atmospheric drones. I had this similar problem with Metroid Other M, where the only real music played during boss battles with varying results. While Vomitoreum is infinitely better than Metroid Other M, please do not curse me for this, but I can't help but make that comparison because you can't make an atmosphere on just cacophonous drones. You need to keep the exploration going by establishing some kind of melody or beat, and this game simply doesn't have this. And there are a lot of Metroid songs that are great at doing this and making it sound unsettling at the same time. Hell, you could do what Metroid Prime does and do with Chozo Ruins, where you could have the unsettling track play at first, and then you could advance to a more upbeat track as the game progresses. But it's not the composition of the cacophony that's bad in this game either. It's just that I wish there was more in terms of a soundtrack itself. Maybe a way to blend in a beat or melody with the cacophonous drones. Maybe then it could establish a unique kind of soundtrack all on its own. Also, the official soundtrack release doesn't include all the songs featured in the game, meaning I had to go through myself and record some of the finer pieces by turning off the game volume and turning the music volume to max. Like this one piece that plays during the opening cutscene, which I think had some of the best atmosphere I think I've heard in any piece of music ever. It puzzles me why nothing was made for the rest of the game. Good stuff. I wish there was more like it in the rest, but like my dad always tells me, wish in one hand and shit in the other, see which one fills up first. Thanks, Dad. In the beginning, an entity from beyond the clouds came to Earth, Vomitoreum. Vomitoreum blasted its horn, which bestowed a great fog upon the land that carried a great plague which turned ordinary men into monsters. In order to combat the infection, a great warrior by the name Umater Modine raised an army of machines in his name to combat the monsters created by the infection. Vomitoreum also formed an alliance with the Masons, who purged the land using their essence of life. The demon whore sisters of Kunkubath devoured the infection to ensure it could infect no one in the future, and it seemed to work. The Fogbringer Vomitoreum picked up the infection and left. All was seemingly well for a year until Vomitoreum returned. It brought back the infection once more, this time far more severe, sending Vomitoreum into his castle and the Sisters of Kunkubath into the airship in the clouds. However, the Masons prevailed, and in a last-ditch effort to save the world, they attempted to create a monster capable of defeating the infection once and for all. And thus, the Nephilim is born. With our purpose bestowed upon us, we reawaken as the long-awaited Nephilim, to vanquish the evil plague in Vomitoreum once and for all, to restore life and balance to the world. As the Nephilim ventures into the open, he meets several individuals seemingly indifferent to the infected world around them, and people by now have just grown to accept it. Throughout your journey, you will encounter the twisted humans that you must lay to rest from the clutches the disease spread from Vomitoreum. Seeing the misshapen and malformed creatures about your journey are enough to get under your skin when you're totally unprepared to encounter them. This world you inhabit is far from inviting. You must be brave enough to explore its deepest, darkest depths. You'll fight your way through misshapen humanoid or indescribable monster after the other, fighting bosses that range from dragons who pull creatures from a pouch in their belly, to succubus twins with mouths for stomachs, to ancient warriors who have lost their sanity, and even some of the characters we've seen in the opening cutscene. However, there isn't much in terms of a story throughout the entire journey. It's mainly just told through the start and the environment and subtext. But later into the game, we travel deeper and deeper, exiting the written map into these dark, empty corridors which play with your anxiety. Your journey exists in perpetual darkness and silence, with the occasional terrifying entity popping from the shadows to assault you. But at the end of your journey, you will find an abandoned subway station, where you'll be attacked by disturbing creatures and then sent onward down the railroad tracks, traversing deeper and deeper into the caverns below. We fall down a hole. Then we are taken into the perspective of an orphan girl who was disowned and repeatedly tortured by others for her appearance. When all hope was seemingly lost, Vomitoreum approached her with a friendly hand before leading her deep into the subway station. Vomitoreum proceeded to sexually violate her in that same subway station. For years and years, the girl prayed for Vomitoreum to receive his punishment, but not only Vomitoreum, but the entire world. But just before the girl was about to give up all hope and commit suicide, an angel appeared. Vomitoreum. Vomitoreum took the girl into its wings and offered to punish the world that ignored and neglected her for so long. And upon sending the blight upon the earth and watching humanity twist and malform, the girl was finally at peace and laid to rest. But before her death, Vomitoreum promised her to be reborn into a paradise anew, a world that would never neglect her in a cruel way ever again. With the truth revealed to us, we are taken to the chamber of the old orphan, where it is time to lay the abomination from which she became after so long, finally receiving the key to the airship atop the map. We ascend into Kunkubath's airship, only to be confronted by Kunkubath herself, who tells us that we are all wrong, and the girl has no need to suffer in a cruel world any longer. But alas, we were created with a purpose, and that purpose leads us to killing Kunkubath and taking the fetus of the girl, Eve, soon to be reborn. After leaving the airship, we head straight for the castle of Vomitoreum, fighting our way through hordes and hordes of enemies and his minions, barely scraping through and pushing against the impossible odds to survive, when we come face to face with the man himself. Vomitoreum. Upon speaking with him, he laments over his past actions, and how his lust and greed has destroyed the world he loved, and in his arrogance he thought he could change that world that was destroyed by him. But when he realized it didn't work, he now stands before you, a broken man. Vomitoreum loses his mind, and with one last futile effort he attacks you, but you weaken him enough to where he lets go. Accepting his fate, he bestows the Blade of Seraphim to you, the blade which he used to defeat Vomitoreum so long ago. Vomitoreum hands it to you to end his life once and for all and bring right upon the world, sending us into the realm of Vomitoreum itself, which is a paradise. A garden world completely in opposition to the force at hand here. Vomitoreum speaks to you about how everyone who fought against the plague was mistaken, for humanity deserved to be punished for its cruelty, and that Vomitoreum was nothing but a self-loathing coward. Out of spite, Vomitoreum challenges you to a duel, knowing that your wrath will never end, and that the war shall always be waged between you two for all eternity. But we prevail, and best Vomitoreum, who tells us that we have teeth and are a worthy warrior, and perhaps that maybe the world can be born anew. Vomitoreum asks you for the sword of Seraphim and the fetus of the orphan girl, which he binds together, allowing her to be reborn as Eve into the Garden of Eden as the Queen of Angels, and the life to be restored to the earth which he plagued so long ago. Wow. Fuck me, dude. That had to be the cringiest resolution ever. Like, really? An ugly teenage girl that got sexually assaulted in a subway station was what caused the end of the world. Fucking wow, what a gripping narrative. This story feels like it was written by a teenager. And not a cool teenager like me, but a teenager who just has no passion for writing and wants to write a story to, like, I don't know, express their pain or some bullshit like that. This is so bad that it's kind of sad to me. Umar Madine's dialogue with you is so underwhelmingly cringy and stupid and angsty as fuck too. Oh my god, this character, I thought this character was so badass at first, but then they just revealed to have the personality of an angsty 16-year-old girl. It's a shame the story turned out the way it was because the setup and the premise was perfect. But it's just, I didn't want to know what Vomitoreum was. I wanted Umar Madine to be a good guy, and not some self-hating incel. The story tried so hard to divert expectations that it ended up being worse off because of it. I'd rather have it been a story about a hero rising up to battle Vomitoreum once and for all, instead of finding out about some stupid teenage girl being raped in the subway station. Fucking goddamn it. I mean, even if you still wanted to keep the plotline where the girl was sexually assaulted, at least you could have made it somewhat more tolerable by rewriting it in a certain way to where Vomitoreum goes up to the girl who is simply indifferent about the fact that she was raped and asks her, "Yo, why you sad?" And then she could have been like, "'Cause he put his pee-pee in my cooch when I said no." And Vomitoreum could have got angry about this, and instead it would have been so much more compelling and less cringeworthy, because at least it would be the wrath of Vomitoreum because of humanity's cruelty instead of answering the girl's prayers. But this just, oh my god, it's not even a great resolution. Here, let me rewrite Vomitoreum for you, scumhead. Keep the premise and intro cutscene, and then change it so the good guys are now the bad guys like Dark Souls. And then we go on a quest to kill all these bad guys to get the Sword of Seraphim to defeat Vomitoreum. Maybe collecting the pieces of Seraphim by fighting the main bosses. I don't know, like the fucking Lord Souls. Then you chase Vomitoreum into his weird twisted realm of nightmares to battle him for eternity to keep him from harming humanity. Remove the deformed girl and Eve subplot and rape story entirely, and bada bing, bada boom, you have a setup for not only an entire franchise, but you have a self-contained story that will leave people wanting more. And it will be less cringe. It shouldn't be my job to write a better story for your game, dude. Hire better writers next time, or for the love of God, hire me. That goes to any game dev. If you want... You know, looking back, most of the things I've said are pretty negative, and it may seem like I didn't enjoy this game at all, but that's actually quite to the contrary. I love this game a lot. By all means, if you haven't already, buy and play this game. It perfectly blends style with substance and managed to pull off everything it sets out to do. While level design on the whole may be a bit disappointed in the way it's connected due to the limitations of the Doom engine, but gameplay is still very fast and fluid with wonderful visual and audio feedback. Not only this, but the soundtrack will keep you immersed and on edge for every second of the experience. Vomitoreum for me gets an 8 out of 10 and is well worth $10, especially $10 for that much. There is a lot on offer here. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Like I said, get me to 500 subs and I'll sing E=MC Vagina by John Lajoie. But I really did hope you enjoyed this video, and will continue to watch my future ones that I put out. So anyways, I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Now get the fuck out of here.